just hit record, even though I just streamed and I could have just waited to do this till tomorrow, but it already has been more than 2 weeks, I believe, since the last podcast, so I decided to hit record, and we're jumping right into it without we don't practice, we don't give a run through of what we're gonna do, we just do these things. And guys, it is officially underway, the February 10th, at least at the time of recording this. Happy February, by the way. I don't think I've even had a podcast since February, so happy February, y'all. Welcome to the hallowed month of February of the year 2022. It is currently 11:07 of the Eastern time zone of which I am recording, and it is your boy. Where have I been? You guys have been wondering. All the podcast, the legions of podcasts, the people that follow the channel specifically for the podcast, which I believe is the majority of people on Earth, of all the millions, because I am the one and only existing podcast, of course. But yeah, where's this guy been? Where's this guy been? And of course, I'm not Tito. For those that are just audibly listening, I of course have I'm one of the many characters on this channel, meaning I am an individual human being that is separate from Tito. But I'm some kind of we'll call myself the long-haired hair metal rocker individual. That's a very long name, but you have to say it every single time. But yeah, I was a little sick actually, part of all of last week or the week before. Yeah, I don't think I've done a podcast since. It's been about 2 weeks since the last one, because all of last week was when I was out. This week, obviously, I didn't have, so it would have been 2 weeks ago. But yeah, at first, actually, it was way back last Wednesday, I think, is when when it first hit. And I took a little rapid test because we get these special rapid tests that you may or may not be familiar with. It is a very brand new technology that only I have access to. But it turned out that it said negative. So I thought, okay, I'm good. So good in the sense of, no COVID, no Omicron or any of that, no special variants. So I just kind of chilled in bed, but it was pretty harsh. I got it just felt like a really bad fever, chilly aches and pains, and aching bones and a headache and all what have you, all of it, the whole deal, weakness, and I couldn't it hurt. I had a headache when I was just trying to think. Oh, headache when you think, that's the best. That you gotta try. I definitely do not recommend it. But it was those first few days that were the worst. But then I think Sunday, so this past Sunday, is when I took another test, and it said, oh, the 2 lines, because if you ever do those rapid tests, there's 2 lines that are this dye color. When you put the little thing, after you put the little thingy up your nose, you put it in this vial, you squirt 2 little thingies onto another thingy. Very good description, of course. You squirt 2 thingies onto another thingy, and then that second thingy has this dye that seeps out from the water droplets from the solution that you spray from your nose. And if the 2 red lines appear, it means you're positive, and if it's 1, it's negative. And it said 2 lines, so I ended up getting it. And but the thing is, I was already getting better at that point. So yeah, I was kind of cooped up in my room here. Luckily, I had already, like I said on the previous podcast, 1 or 2 ago, that my whole setup was in my room, so I was able to still do all my stuff in here, even though I didn't end up streaming or podcasting anyways all last week. I think it wasn't until last Saturday that I first streamed again. The big return. But it's all good now. Relatively normal. It's just kind of like a dry cough, which you may or may not be blessed with hearing throughout this episode. So forgive me for that in advance. Or, if you're into it, then you're welcome. But yeah, that was about that. And just before, 11/11, make a wish, guys. It may not be at the time that you're listening, but we'll send you some good silent wishes your way. Moment of silence. Okay, that moment of silence is done. But I just finished playing the hallowed Arkham Asylum playthrough. And by mean, I mean Batman. We just finished that long-awaited playthrough, which, of course, we're the first people of all time. This little-known game, Batman Arkham Asylum, which came out in 2009. But little-known fact, I am the first person ever of all time, meaning Batman, to defeat that game. So it's a pretty monumentous moment on the channel, guys. So round of applause all around. Oh, I played it back then. This is like, I think it came out 2009. I remember it mainly because it was like the year after The Dark Knight came out. So that was like being in a post-Batman craze again, and that game was like the first major thing to come out after. And the other big thing is the fact that obviously it was the return of the animated series voice cast, Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker. Mark Hamill, of course, some of you may not know, but played a little-known character before that called Luke Skywalker, some lesser-known indie property that you probably may not have heard of, but something called Star Wars. But yeah, he iconic Joker, of course. And playing that over the last month or so, on and off, over the course of, I don't know how many streams it was, but really a lot of fun. And I had bought, as mentioned on previous podcasts, I got a bundle of all three for pretty cheap online, with the Steam keys for cheap. So I'm going to be playing Arkham City next. So if you want to head on to that and check that out, make sure you follow the twitch.tito please, twitch.tv/Tito please. And yeah, we're going to be doing some of that next, probably this weekend starting, but that should be fun. But yeah, that game, honestly, like, it feels amazing playing as Batman in that game. And I think that Spider-Man game that came out after was like said to be the next kind of game that has that feel of just, it's hard to, like, it's just like a beat 'em up kind of fun. It's just like the animation and like the mechanics are just so great. And the animations of just playing as Batman you feel truly badass playing as him. So yeah, definitely play those if you haven't. And honestly, the tone and the games that just get like everything right, like the tone, I keep saying the tone, but the tone. It does the fantastical elements, like, you got Killer Croc and like Poison Ivy in there. Because I think people think that the only way for Batman to be done well is for it to be like ultra realistic. Because it nails the dark tone, but it still keeps the fantastical elements, So I don't know if that's what the new one's going to be the movie is going to be going for. But I wouldn't mind if they, had a little Mr. Freeze in there. I think honestly, it's like, I think people think that Mr. Freeze, like, just the hearing of that name and associating it with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, you kind of assume it just can't be done well. But then again, the Arnold portrayal is truly goated. But I think it's honestly possible in a live action portrayal to do it well. It's just a matter of, good storytelling at the end of the day. As long as the tone is right, you don't play it for a joke, it could be a good bit of fun. So, and then the other thing, now we're of course, what's a Tito Speaks podcast without a mention of the Batman movie. But yeah, we got our tickets today. Me, my friend and my brothers. Well, my friend actually got them all. So he got for me, his girlfriend, and my two brothers. So that should be, and two of our other friends too. So it should be a good bit of fun. That'll be fun. March 4th. We might even be going the day before because it comes out the 4th. But the every time they announce like the day it comes out, it technically, which is the Friday, there's usually show times the Thursday night, so before, but they advertise the Friday because the Friday is the real opening day, but Thursday technically there's show times. And we got it in IMAX, Scotiabank Theater in Toronto. For those of you that are in Toronto, let me know if you're gonna go to that. And I forgot what time, and I don't even remember what show time, but maybe you'll see me if you go to that theater, because that theater, honestly, for any of you in Toronto, without a doubt, number one best theater for sure is Scotiabank IMAX. It's like the biggest IMAX screen, and like the screen like curves almost because it's so big. It literally curves, and it's like taller. It's literally a square, but it looks almost like taller than it is wide. And I don't even remember what I haven't mentioned on this podcast already. I might have mentioned this already, but I used to see like every major like blockbuster movie there. Like I saw Dark Knight Rises there. I think the second time, because I think I actually saw it another time in Mississauga. But seeing like the majority of the Marvels there, the Marvel stuff. What else have I seen? Like I think I saw Fast 5, not Fast 5, Fast 7 there. Like all the major blockbusters, it's always like, not that I'm saying that you have to see it on the biggest screen, but I'm like a pre-COVID like opening weekend moviegoer. And even now, like if it's like a big movie release, I really want to see that. Oh, and that just brought to mind too, and speaking of movie releases, there's two major ones like since the openings and the restrictions kind of got softened up slightly in Toronto, in Ontario. Stuff I want to see that has come out that I still haven't seen is mainly Scream and Jackass. Is it Jackass Forever? Whatever Jackass 4, we'll call it Jackass 4, but I think it is Forever. But the Jackass movie experience in theaters is honestly like so great. And I didn't see the new one, but that's what I'm saying. Like I really want to see it. Hopefully this weekend, in the next few days. Hopefully I'll see it in the time until the next podcast. But just that the theater experience of seeing a Jackass movie is just unmatched. Just because it's guys just like torturing themselves for kicks for the camera. I don't think I saw 2 in theaters even, but I saw 3 for sure. I think 3 is the only one that I saw in theaters, but I kept hearing great things about. Like I feel like it's one of those things like you either like those kind of movies or you don't. Like you have to just already be down for that in the first place. But there is some disgusting gags in Jackass. If I'm remembering back, I was watching clips this week, and some of the ones are just like I just howl laughing. Like some of the. I remember I think the shoplifter one from the first movie where Johnny Knoxville dresses up like the old guy in all the heavy duty prosthetics. And just the way he looks in those prosthetics just kills me because it's like he has the balding but the long hair, like the kind of old man hair. But like the way that it kind of comes down his face, but it's like balding. So it's like 3 strands of hair kind of going across his face. And he just has this like deadpan look while he's like in that wrinkled makeup, and he has the old man clothes, and he just blatantly like doesn't even like try to hide him shoplifting in front of like the storekeeper. Like he has like his his old man cardigan or windbreaker or whatever, and he's walking through the store just like taking bananas and stuff, and he just putting it into his jacket without even thinking twice, and he's just hunched over like this. And I think the bit where the guy, I just die every time because of his reaction, because he just plays it so straight, like just some senile old guy, and then the old guy's like, hey, you can't do that, and he's like, that's all me, he reaches into his jacket, and you just see like, he's like, that's all me. Meanwhile, there's like all these unnatural bumps all over his body. It would be amazing if somehow that the storekeeper just sees him, and he just sees it really is just a deformed skin that is just like lumps that just somehow look very unnatural, but no, it's bananas and videotapes or whatever. What do you find in a store? All sorts of stuff from a store. But the thing is, the guy took out all that stuff, and then as he's like escorting him out on his way out, he's still taking stuff. You just have to watch that clip. The shopkeeper, the shop. I think it's the shoplifter, but the Jackass clip. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece. It's a true masterpiece. And the other thing I'll say, Johnny Knoxville is actually like literally his reputation for being like kind of the face of that. Him and Steve-O are like totally justified because of the crazy stuff that those two, like all those guys, but like mainly those two are able to, like they are the ones that go the extra mile of pure. For Johnny Knoxville, it's more the death-defying stunts and the pain tolerance, and then Steve-O, it's more the disgusting. They both do the painful stuff, but I think Steve-O does more of the disgusting, like stuff to make you yak, stuff to make you throw up. Like what is it, the poo cocktail supreme, or the sweatsuit cocktail, where Preston, the the one guy on the crew, he's wearing that what is it, that sweatsuit attached to a tube, attached to a bottle, and he's like on an elliptical sweating it out, and he fills that little cup or something with pure sweat, and then Steve-O drinks that, and that literally, that makes me gag just looking, like, before you even see the sweat in the cup, like, you already want to yak. And I think a funny recurring joke, which is, you can call it a joke, but it's the fact that it's all real, it just is a real thing that keeps happening, is, I think, what is it, the one camera guy, Lance, from all the movies, he's always the camera guy that whenever it's usually whenever something's happening to Steve-O, because Steve-O does the disgusting stuff, he just always, the second camera always pans to him holding his camera, and he's just throwing up because he can't handle it. And I love that he just kept doing that all those years. And I'm hyped to see Lance. Don't spoil it for me, but I hope Lance is in this one throwing up all the same. But yeah, I'm excited. And then Johnny Knoxville, yeah, like, he just does all the crazy stunts. But the one, I don't know if it's the number one, but it's definitely one of the, maybe probably the most like terrifying to want to do, was, if you guys remember in Jackass 2, there was like this riot control test thing that they had, where it was like this kind of riot control thing where it's like this, I don't even know what to call it, like this little box, this pressurized box that has like dozens and dozens of like little rubber, like, I'm guessing really hard rubber balls that are used. The guys at that place described it as like they have those in front of embassies to, it's kind of like a, what do you call that? Like a non-lethal kind of riot. It's like riot deterrent or whatever. And it's basically, it's like, I imagine it's like worse than a million paintballs because it's hard rubber, and it just like does this loud boom, and then like obviously it stops anything from moving. And I think it was Johnny Knoxville, Ryan Dunn, and then I think Bam Margera that were there, and they did a test, and it just like it sounds like a nuke, and you just see all these balls flying, and it just sounds so scary because like it's just pure pain, like pure death and pure pain. And Knoxville had to like convince those guys to do it, and he was already like super gassed to do it, so that was crazy. And then the thing I always admired was when he had to convince the other two to do it, and then when they did it, he was the only one standing after, because they both, like, as soon as you hear that boom, the other two guys are like on the ground, all you see is the smoke from the machine, and like he's still just standing, and then he's the first one to recover, and he's still just joking about it. That was like, that really showed that his reputation is just fully justified. Like, he has a next level pain tolerance, or like something about his nerve endings must be like damaged, or he's just super high pain, like superhero level pain tolerance, that guy. So I'm excited for this one. And I don't know if I heard if it's any more extreme than the old ones, but I'm hyped. I'm hyped to see it. That should be exciting. But yeah, like, but since I was saying, guys, like, that's one of the few things I didn't watch through the movies. I want to watch them again before I see the movie, but I was watching all the clips, because a lot of the bits are on YouTube. All those disgusting and amazing and painful things. But I was also watching a bunch of movies and shows while I was sick. I was still working while I was from home, but like in the evenings I would watch some shows or movies, try to catch up. We always got that infinite list of stuff to watch, right? And I was trying to culture myself a bit more. I forgot if I mentioned it. I don't think I would have mentioned it on stream, yeah. Or I should say I mentioned it on stream, but not on the podcast. I started a few months ago, sometime last year, I started What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast. I'm going to keep saying this, that I don't know if I mentioned things on the podcast, so forgive me if I'm spewing old knowledge, but, that's what we do. That's what we do, guys. We just, we like to repeat ourselves. But What We Do in the Shadows. First of all, maybe my favorite Taika Waititi movie. Little background for those of you that don't know, without spoiling, just basic premise. It's basically The Office with vampires. That's all you really need to know. But the movie's amazing, from 2014. I watched it way back in college for this like horror movie elective class that I took. Because like, it was one of those things, you're just trying to look for the fun elective. And that was like like come on, a horror movie narrative. There was a sci-fi narrative class and then a horror movie class or horror, and we were literally every week was a new movie, and that they played that. But I was cheesed because I actually missed that day that they watched that movie, but I didn't know about the movie, and this is like maybe a year or two after it came out, so it was like kind of low key. And Taika hadn't done Thor Ragnarok yet, or even I don't think he even did Hunt for the Wilder People. But I watched it on my own terms, What We Do in the Shadows, and I fell in love with it. One of my favorite movies. One of the very niche hybrid genre of horror comedy. There's a lot of great horror comedies out there, but it's definitely one of the top. Like, it's got to be a trifecta for me of that, Shaun of the Dead, and An American Werewolf in London are like the trifecta for me. My personal favorite horror comedies. There's a case for a lot. Like, honestly, it's actually it's a pretty deep genre. There's a lot out there. You got Cabin in the Woods, you got Scream. And then speaking of Scream, like I mentioned, I of course want to watch that, the new one. But anyways, like I fell in love with that movie, What We Do in the Shadows. And then the show came out a few years ago. Like they were announcing a spinoff of the movie, which is more or less kind of a remake because it's like it's not the same characters, but very similar, almost the same premise, except that movie, it takes place in New Zealand. I don't know what city is it. Is Auckland a city? I don't know if it's Auckland. What's the main city? I don't know. Forgive me for not remembering the cities, but it's in one of the New Zealand main cities, and this one takes place in Staten Island. The show, and it's new characters. And it's a slightly different dynamic, but it's very, very, very similar, and it follows like the main cast as well as there's another kind of vampire, an energy vampire named Colin Robinson, who's like this he looks like he's like a character out of The Office where he's just like this kind of very kind of dorky guy with glasses. He's a very kind of a caricature. He's like they always make fun of like he's like the guy from Dilbert, if you guys remember that old cartoon and comic Dilbert, the guy with the tie that always flips up. He literally looks like Dilbert. And it also follows the main character Nandor, his familiar. And if you're not aware, a familiar is basically like a vampire's servant. So it's a funny dynamic that the show has, and it's filmed by a crew, and it's like The Office where it's acknowledged that it's like a documentary. So the cameras are following them everywhere, all their exploits day to day. But it's such a good show, and it's 3 seasons in. 2 of them are on Disney Plus, but I watched everything. The third, by your other methods that you could watch stuff. But hopefully that one goes on Disney Plus soon for those of you that have that or whatever. There's probably other services that it's on. There's all sorts of stuff now to watch, but yeah, like that show is so good. It's got to be one of my favorite ongoing shows now. My other one that I would have said I was going to get into after, but Mandalorian is up there. Atlanta is up there. Atlanta, the Donald Glover show. And it's finally coming back for a 3rd season this year. It's been like literally 4 years maybe since Atlanta season 2. 2018, literally, I was in Mexico on a trip when I was watching the finale for that. And yeah, so I'm excited for that. And I can't even think off the top of my head, like what the biggest shows, I don't know why I think of like Squid Game, but because like I think in the last few years I haven't really been into shows, because it's so time consuming. But I think now, like the more that I'm like getting I balance my day more, I'm getting more into wanting to watch shows and stuff. So yeah, give me some recommendations in the comments, guys. What's a good show? I feel like I'm missing something, but what was it? So yeah, I wanted to get into after about my thoughts on Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett. So anything else on What We Do in the Shadows before I move on? I think that's honestly just watch it. It's great. The thing is, like, I don't like spoiling stuff. Like, we all know I don't like spoiling. But I want to tell you, like, there's at least one joke from the movie that I just, like, laugh. There's 2 jokes in the movie that I like always just watch the clip. And you know those jokes that are just so good, even though you know exactly what the punchline is and you still just watch it? Yeah, like just watch it. Watch the movie and then watch the show. Like, you know, it doesn't really matter about watching the movie, but if you want to taste first, watch the movie. And the show is made by same creators like Jermaine Clement, who also did that. I want to watch his show Flight of the Conchords, which is like he did that before he even did What We Do in the Shadows. But he is like kind of the, I don't know if you call it the showrunner, but he's the main creator of this show. And Taika directed actually a few episodes, so he's still involved, so it's pretty cool. But the show's so good. And there's another thing I'll say before I move on, there's so many good cameos. There's so many unexpected cameos. Don't look it up, just watch the show, because I think I actually heard about some of them way back when the show came out, but I'm glad that I watched it a bit later after the fact, that I kind of forgot about them by the time I watched the show. So yeah, it's good. Honestly, like, I was watching it in the middle of the night some nights, and I was just roaring laughing. Like, I can't remember the last show that made me laugh that hard. Like, it's so good. It's amazing. Like, 100%. If a show can make you roar laughing, come on, like, that's highest praise you could possibly give. And yeah, the whole cast is amazing. I don't know all the actors' names, but I never skip the intro. And that they use the same song for the opening credits as they do for the movie, and I love that song. It's like this song called You're Dead, some like weird pop song from like the 60s or something. And it's just so fitting, weirdly, because the fact that you think it's such a good song for the show that you think it was made for the show, but it's actually an old song from the 60s that they just happen to find. And it kind of leads into the next thing, but it slightly leads into one of the things I wanted to talk about. But it reminds me of, like, when I think of like songs that existed that like were just so perfectly for the thing that it was used for. Soul Bossa Nova for Austin Powers. The fact that Quincy Jones made, like, basically the song you think of for Austin Powers, I think it's similar to that. It's also from the 60s. Like, it's made by Quincy Jones. Producing legend, did all the Michael Jackson, like, Thriller and Off the Wall. I think he did Off the Wall. But he literally, like, that song for Austin Powers, like, the perfect song was just, it existed already, and it's not made, like, I think it's so associated with that movie that you just think it was made for the movie, but it just wasn't. And yeah, like, it was so great. It's not really the most smooth transition, but I say that it led into the next thing because Mike Myers, of course, goated from Austin Powers and Wayne's World. I just, for the first time, I'm kind of half ashamed to say that I watched Wayne's World for the first time in its entirety the other day. I'd say, what was that, Sunday or two? Yeah, something. No, even before. Was it during the week? Oh, the days are all blended. I say Sunday like it was like 2 days ago, but it's already leading into Friday at this point. But yeah, I've seen the majority of Wayne's World in clips throughout the years, but I never. I am ashamed to say that I've only just finally watched it in its entirety. You know, it's just one of those eternal bucket list, because like, bucket list in a way, but those things that you just knew that are just 100% you have to watch, because, you know, it's Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, goated duo of all time from SNL and the movies. But yeah, I finally saw it, and all I could say is it's excellent. That's half the. I kind of wanted to say that this was a Wayne's World looking wig. You know, it's kind of in that vein. It's kind of in the Wayne. It looked a little bit like Wayne with this wig. It's like it's like Garth's hair, but Wayne's hair color, because it's like the look of Garth. If this was blonde, I'd look like Garth. But yeah, Dana Carvey and Mike Myers goated, and I wanted to say too that, like, Mike Myers in general, just for anyone that is around my age or a little older, a little younger, but grew up in like the 90s, 2000s, that, like, the two gods of that era were Mike Myers and Jim Carrey. You can't tell me any different. There are others, but those are the two that, like, I just think of just absolute juggernauts of comedy of the 90s. Because come on, you got like all those, between them two, they have like every major comedy. Not want to say every major comedy, but a lot of the major comedies of the 90s leading into the 2000s. And they're just both like absolute like earliest childhood inspiration. I think people used to say in high school that I was like whenever I would do my drama, like I wasn't even trying to, but like people would say that what I was going for reminded them of Jim Carrey. So, and that's high praise. So yeah, but and the funny thing is, as far as I know, they never worked together unless they did on like, I don't know if they would have on SNL or something, because like, well, Jim Carrey was on it in Living Color and Mike Myers was on SNL, but I don't know if one or the other like appeared on one of those shows, because I can't think of a movie that they're actually in. And a weird tidbit, a whole what if of I wonder what history would have been, is I remember reading an article. I read it again today, but I knew it from like a while ago, that Mike Myers back in the 90s, at the peak of that time of Jim Carrey's fame, he wanted him to play Dr. Evil, which would have been like, holy, like what would that have been, you know? Because it's like, as much as Mike Myers is absolutely goated, he's literally iconic as every single character he played. A lot of his most iconic characters are in that movie. Like, how are you going to play Dr. Evil, Austin, Goldmember, and Fat Bastard all in the same movie? Well, Fat Bastard only in the second and third, Goldmember only in the third. But yeah, and then like all the celebrity cameos. Will Ferrell in the first and second is an amazing recurring gag. Will Ferrell's scene in the second one more so was just like, I still watch like that clip on YouTube just by itself. I love that. But the second movie I think is my favorite, if I'm honest. The second movie I think well-rounded. It has all the, I wouldn't even say it has all the best stuff, because like I think there's a case to say any of the three are the best. But I think if I'm honest, I've always had a soft spot. I think because I actually saw the second movie, Spy Who Shagged Me, before I saw the first one. And like it works on its own to watch it. All not to spoil if you somehow know about like his girlfriend Vanessa. That's the only thing you really have to have known from the first movie leading into the beginning of the second, but it ends up not having to do with anything. It's just like, yeah, because I watched the second not knowing about the first, like, but you just put together, oh, okay, he got with this character Vanessa at the beginning of the second, and whatever happened. I won't spoil. But yeah, I love those movies. Maybe I just convinced myself, I talked myself into watching them again. But yeah, I gotta watch Wayne's World 2 now, I guess. And I always actually wanted to, I don't know if there's a way to do it. I think online, I forgot if my friends ended up showing me, but no, I was asking about that for Conan, because I was looking at like, I wanted to look at the backlog of like old TV. Like I wanted to like one day go back and watch all of Conan, like Conan's old show, like the original, like literally just watch it all, like all the late night. And then also SNL, like watch all the classic SNL, maybe all the way from the 70s, who knows? Like, because I feel like it's like another like bucket list thing, because just to be able to say that you watched all of that, it's like those shows that are just so daunting, but like I want to take it on, like stuff like that. I want to watch all of Twilight Zone, the classic Twilight Zone, and like old Star Trek. I was talking about it with this guy from the stream Z, shout out Z, about he was going off and telling me all about the different Star Trek shows and just like all the canon and how they connect, because it's all pretty much one interconnected timeline. The only ones that are technically separate are the movie, like the newer, like the J.J. Abrams movies, but they acknowledge them as an alternate timeline. Because I've only ever seen those, but I feel like Star Trek's another thing that I feel like I should get into, like the old stuff, but I never did. Not for any, like I just didn't, like, because I just never grew up on it. I know Next Generation was the big one in the 90s. And I always wanted to just go and watch it. I don't know if it's too late for a guy like me, but there's a lot of daunting stuff, you know, like a lot of major things. I think everyone's always got some kind of major on, you know, the watch list. Everyone's to watch list is endless. You can't tell me unless you have no life that you have seen every movie. Because even me, like people thought that I saw like everything, and no, I haven't. Like well, I'd say back in like high school and stuff, and a bit after. Like, I used to just watch movies all the time. So now it's like, with the busyness of life, you got to find that time to just squeeze in a new movie. Like, it feels like an accomplishment, when you watch something that you haven't seen for the first time. And so this past weekend was a big thing of that. So I mentioned some of the ones. So What We Do in the Shadows for shows. Did I even say all of what I thought of Boba Fett? I was trying to get into that at some point. I'll cover that now. But yeah, Boba Fett finished the finale this week. And that was like, okay, I feel like I'm not going to say much different than what you probably would have heard from other people, because I don't think I have any hot takes on the show. Besides, maybe I don't dislike it as much as some people. I'm kind of like, okay, I think I'm pretty much in the same boat as everyone, where I love episode 5 and 6, if you've seen it. But the rest of the show is like pretty It's just like, which I'm sad to say, because it's like, it's Star Wars. Star Wars is supposed to be like either blow your socks off or get it. But it's not. It's at the same time. Is it really Star Wars if there isn't something to complain about? It's not I think Mandalorian is the most recent Star Wars, and then Clone Wars are the most recent Star Wars to have like almost unanimous praise without any complaints. Because it's funny, when you think about it, like, this has been spewed upon infinitely, but it's funny, the whole idea that Star Wars fans are the biggest enemy of Star Wars, like, that whole thing. No one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And it's kind of true, because I think that the thing is that I think ever since the prequels, technically, there's always been something to complain about. But that thing to complain about has never been the same. It's always changed, because the whole prequel trilogy was like, George Lucas trying to do his something new, but the execution was what was wrong with the dialogue, but the story is all there. The story's amazing, but it's just the execution of some of it. And then I think it's unanimous. Revenge of the Sith is viewed as the best one. But then the sequels, it's all the, they tried too much to just redo what the originals did. I don't want to go on about Star Wars. It's tiring. We all know the deal with Star Wars. Bottom line is that Boba Fett was good. Amazing episode 5 and 6, though. Absolutely amazing television, episode 5 and 6. Some of the best Star Wars you'll ever see is episode 5 and 6. But there's a lot to be desired with the finale. But there's a lot of greatness in the finale, too. The finale had a lot of greatness, glimpses of greatness. But it was, it was good. It wasn't as great as Mandalorian, and I don't want to spoil and say anything, but yeah, like, I'm excited for the upcoming. I'm still honestly like, but it puts me like, it's not, it did its job by putting me back in the Star Wars mode. I think the worst thing that could have happened was I got bored of Star Wars after this, but it made me still intrigued with Star Wars. Mainly that 5th and 6th episode. So those kind of like excited me for what's to come next. And of course we all know the big one. And this is like, guys, this is like a big, I think people realize it after like literally just today. Or I should say yesterday. Just yesterday, major reveal of the not everyone knew it was coming out, but the new poster for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is going to be a big deal when that comes out. That's probably next to something like, there's always going to be something that's going to be revealed that'll be hype. But I think as of now, like, from what we know about the year, I think the big landmark things are the Batman movie, Doctor Strange, the Jurassic World trailer I saw today too, the new one. And that I'm actually really hyped for now. If you guys see the new trailer, and if you're a big Jurassic Park fans, which I'm a huge fan. The last one, Dominion, the second Jurassic World movie, But the new one, I'm so excited for. And it seems like, just watch that trailer. It looks like the most different, in a good way, but like still in tone with Jurassic Park. And hopefully goes out with a bang. I'm excited for that. But for other big things this year, like Obi-Wan Kenobi's definitely, I think once there's a trailer, that's going to be like one of the bigger things this year, if not the biggest hype. And it's got a lot of, living up to, because that's basically the next major entry of the main storyline, more or less, right? Because it's the main legacy characters, right? It's Obi-Wan. It's been confirmed